Here I'm going to be doing a ranking of all films from Illumination Animation. I recently did a ranking for all Pixar films after seeing Inside Out 2, and now I'm doing one for Illumination, hot off seeing Despicable Me 4. I haven't had a lot of good things to say about Illumination through the years. In fact, I think they have some real dog shit movies. So needless to say, this will be an interesting ranking to go through. This ranking will go from worst to best, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. Not included here is that Hot movie they did from 2011. It's not a full-on animated film. It's one of those CG live-action hybrid films like the original Scooby-Doo movie or Garfield. I hadn't seen the film, but it looks like garbage, and I didn't want to waste my time watching it. So with that in mind, enjoy the rest of this list.
You're a mean one. You really are a heel.
I hate this Grinch movie. I hate it a lot. To me, a proper Grinch movie this is not. Although there's some excellent animation to be seen, in a fatal mistake, they failed to make the Grinch mean.
Fine.
He's not a mean one, nor pure good. The best way to describe him is just misunderstood. The movie is typical Illumination crap. For the type of movies they make, they deserve a slap. Besides the animation, good things here, there are few. But the things that are bad, that's a list that grew. The movie is just so lackluster and lazy. Its quality will leave your brain feeling daisy. The writing here, did anyone care? We get lame jokes like the Grinch in his underwear. It's easy to tell that for me, this Grinch movie was a fail. Had I seen it in theaters, halfway through, I would bail.
We must resist.
It's a film that's so bad it's scary. If you want a better Grinch film, watch the one with Jim Carrey. Minions was the first Illumination movie that showed, oh, sometimes y'all just don't give a f***. Sure, Despicable Me 1 and 2 showed audiences like the Minions, but that doesn't mean they want a film written by them. There actually is a semblance of a story for the first half, and some surprisingly dark humor with all the death that happens here. Although they were clearly too scared to have the Minions try to find a master during the 1940s. But the second half of this film is a complete show. That's nonsensical, stupid, not funny, and showed that the Minions are better served as side comedy relief and not the main characters. You are guaranteed to be 50% dumber after watching this film.
Oh, hello, papagena. Tu le bella con la papaya.
Was that supposed to be a joke? Cause I'm not laughing!
Illumination!
Yeah! Illumination!
Secret Life of Pets 2 is laziness to the next level. The movie initially starts off like it'll have a focused story as Max and Duke are watching their owner's son grow up and looking after him. But after this opening, the movie is just random stitched together stories that don't mean stretched out to reach an hour and 18 minutes length without credits. It's meaningless storytelling, which is the worst kind. Watching this movie, you'll just be like, really? That's it? Is anything really gonna get going here? Due to the quality of this film and its predecessor, audiences did not show up in droves for this film and make it the box office mega hit like the first film was. Otherwise, we'd probably be on at least a fourth film now in the Secret Life of Lazy Kids movie bullshit. Minions: The Rise of Gru was the sequel to the first Minions abomination. And I'll say that the first portion of this movie is actually decent when it's focusing on young Gru's life with the Minions and him taking on the Vicious Six. The key word here is focused, because it's this part of the movie that actually has legit storytelling, progression, and some semblance of a brain. But once these Minions are left to run amok in basically the second half of the film, it's about as bad as you can get for a kid's film. Storytelling, logic, brains just thrown out the window. And worst of all is that I just don't find it to be very funny at all. All of these unfunny segments are stretched out into padded story segments, like the Minion Otto going on a bike trip with some random black guy. And worst of them all, the Minions learning kung fu from some Asian woman. which is stretched out to unbearable length and again, just bashes you on the head with how unfunny it is. The Secret Life of Pets made for a better trailer than a movie. Which those trailers for the movie were amazing. The movie just had a killer marketing campaign, which is why it was such a big hit. Unfortunately, everything that was funny about that trailer, just those 1-second sight gags, was in the trailers, and the rest of the film is just bare bones diversion for your kids. There's nothing really to hate, but it's just so meh, there's nothing to like. The story is just Toy Story without the brains. And the title, The Secret Life of Pets, there ain't nothing secret about this shit. You got animal control getting assaulted by animals, carjackings by animals, animals holding up the Hudson Bridge in New York. I guess no humans noticed, or the writing was just that shitty.
Illumination!
Despicable Me 1 and 2 were written with heart at the forefront. The same can't be said with part 3. It's a real case of sequelitis here, where you're really just spinning the wheel of movie plots to bring out the old long-lost brother routine, and then just finding stuff for the other characters to do to fill time. Despite this, though, I don't think the movie is an awful watch. It has moments of entertainment. It is the only time in the series, though, where the minions really just seem thrown in there more out of obligation without much to do. Although the stuff with them in the prison is 100 times funnier than anything from them in Minions 1 or 2. It's the very definition of a meh animated movie, which does make it much better than the worst from Illumination. By the time we get to the 6th overall installment in the Despicable Me and Minions franchise, you know exactly what you're getting with Despicable Me 4. You just hope that enough effort goes in to have a movie with some authentic heart or purpose, and this movie is anything but that. It's as superficial and fillerish as it gets. You essentially get an hour and a half of meaningless side stories and characters goofing around, and it all circles around to a mess of a climax. I won't act like some of the familiar elements of the series still don't have some charm or entertainment, like Gru being Gru, or even a chuckle or two out of the Mega Minions. But at this point, these movies have such a shallow checklist of things they have to hit, and that's cute Agnes moments for the trailer and the movie itself, a new villain with some lame gimmick, and finally, you gotta have the minions, and they're either gonna go somewhere new or turn into something new. Truly despicable, and not in a good way.
Illumination!
Migration is an alright kids film. It thankfully doesn't stoop to cheap tactics and is serviceable in most aspects. It's one of the few times in an Illumination film where there's a legit sense of danger for the characters, as the film's villain, some tatted up chef, goes through some maniacal lengths to capture these ducks. Admittedly, the film did make me hungry for roasted duck at the end. The Lorax, like other Dr. Seuss adaptations, has the tough task of creating enough story to fill a full-length feature film. Its non-book parts are surprisingly okay, and do hammer down the whole eco-friendly message of the story. Although some of the human character designs were really goddamn ugly, and resembled more Despicable Me than Dr. Seuss art style. But through surprisingly capturing the dark elements of the original story, and Danny DeVito being a great Lorax, this movie doesn't things up, which as we've seen doesn't always happen with Dr. Seuss films, live action or animated.
You wouldn't hit a woman. That's a woman.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie is an absolute visual treat for the eyes, as the world of Mario is beautifully brought to life through spectacular visuals. The music is also great, along with the parts that actually replicate the gameplay of the Mario games. Unfortunately, you can't just help but wish that more effort was put to make it work as a full-fledged story, and I'm talking about real storytelling and earned character development. After Mario and Peach team up, stuff just happens scene to scene without much motivation or build-up, and that doesn't make for a great story. By the end of the film, I was like, well, it looked and sounded great, but I don't know about anything else though. And why any film would try to do a holding out for a hero sequence after Shrek 2 is beyond me.
Illumination. Illumination. Illumination.
A lot of the first Sing's gimmick is, hey, look at these animals sing these modern pop songs, which definitely gets annoying more than once here. But it is much more maturely written than basically all other Illumination movies, and it doesn't sink to a lot of that lowest common denominator humor that we see from them. A lot of the movie is a little overly dramatic, but I'll take that over lazy kid movie mess any day. Quality-wise, I thought Sing 2 was a step up from its solid predecessor in most aspects. Again, more than most Illumination movies, it's more sincerely made and character-based. The setting of Las Vegas is fun, and the use of songs here doesn't come across as shallow as Sing Part 1. The movie's story definitely takes a weird turn though when attempted murder happens on the part of the film's antagonist, leading to the characters running for their lives, and it's like, what? What the f*** happened to this story? But its climax in the way the show comes together at the end is character-based in a genuine way, and no lie, that show at the end is actually pretty goddamn good. Despicable Me 2 continues the heartfelt storytelling from Part 1. This time, instead of Gru learning to care for the girls, it's him naturally finding a love interest in Lucy. It's a sweet story with a lot of heartfelt moments, although not all of the movie is that smart though. There's a decent amount of the humor with Lucy that had me reacting, wait, am I supposed to laugh at that? And the general mission inside the mall is pretty goddamn stupid. But despite this, the movie still comes together nicely through peak use of the minions, and it gave the world the song.
Despicable Me.
Despite my opinion on the majority of the franchise, I think the first Despicable Me is a legit good movie.
What?
It's what happens when your story is written with heart and character development at the forefront, and not sight gags and lowest common denominator humor first in mind. You really feel the care that Gru develops for those girls, and that's after we see him being a totally evil throughout the first half of the movie. And like Despicable Me 2, the use of the minions here, perfect. Now, it's not like the first Despicable Me compares to the best from Pixar, but the first Despicable Me definitely put Illumination animation on the map and would get my vote for being their best movie.
Yay!
And there you have it with my ranking of all Illumination films. You see that eventually I had some positive things to say, but ultimately we're talking about a studio that's pooped out a whole lot of subpar shit.
Luca! Bueno? Piñu! Bueno? Piñu!
With a few exceptions, a majority of these films are just so goddamn lazy. You know, not every film has to be top tier Pixar level, and I wouldn't want every animated film to be as deep as Soul or Inside Out, but there comes a point where you're just bottom of the barrel, lowest common denominator level. And that laziness has trickled down to the Despicable Me and Minions franchise. You can see that I think the first two are legit good, but these last four installments collectively ain't been shit. But as with all franchises, there's zero reason to change things up if it keeps making money. But I will point out that adjusted for inflation, which you have to do with movies these days, the film came in behind Despicable Me 3 and the two Minions movies, which showcases that to some degree anyway, the quality of these films has led to them peaking in terms of money and popularity. So I think if the next film is another burger, like I think most of these recent films have been, you'll see a continued decline in the box office. But enough of that, that'll do it for this ranking of all Illumination films. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching.